Hey, sweet friends, I am so glad you are back. And yes, I am filming from my van. I am currently waiting for my youngest child to be finished with therapy. She has 3 hours of therapy on a Thursday morning. So here I am recording in my car because you gotta do what you gotta do when you gotta do it. And so we're gonna do this right here, right now. So if you don't know me, which you really shouldn't know me, my name is Heather Sweetman. I live in the city of Chicago with my awesome husband Matt and our 4 amazing kids. They range, and our oldest is 13 and our youngest is 7. And I'm here on YouTube to share our story of just walking in grief, walking in the purpose of pain. And I know I could have used a story like this years ago when I was trying to figure things out and kind of in the middle of caregiver burnout. So just to say, our youngest child, Finley, our little, which means courageous warrior, and the name could not be more fitting for her. She was diagnosed officially around 1 year of age with spastic, excuse me, my phone is going off. So when our youngest girl, Finley, our little courageous warrior, which if you know her, you know that the meaning of her name is so fitting, it's not even funny. But we knew something was not right. Around 4 months old, she had severe colic for the first 3 months of her little life and screamed nonstop. And once we got the colic figured out, she just was not cooing. She wasn't doing like the whole rolling over thing that I knew was really common from my previous 3 kids. So I knew around 4 months old that something was not quite right. And my pediatrician wanted us to wait to see what was going on at 6 months old. 6 months, she wasn't tripoding. She wasn't even trying to roll over. Still was not babbling, which you should be doing at that age. So at that age, at 6 months old, she recommended us to physical therapy. We then found early intervention, and Finley was accepted into early intervention and was started receiving physical therapy, occupational therapy, and speech therapy by the age of 8 months old. Officially around 1.5, she had an MRI, and it was officially diagnosed that she has quadriplegia, spastic cerebral palsy, and that is the most severe form of cerebral palsy. It's a little confusing. There's a lot of different kinds of CP, and it can look a million different ways. There are kids with Finley's same diagnosis that can't even lift their heads off of their chair. And then there's other kiddos with Finley's same diagnosis who are walking and talking. Finley can really not, she definitely can lift her head, but she cannot walk, talk, crawl, sit, feed herself without some sort of assistance, depending on what it is she is trying to do. So, needless to say, we threw ourselves into taking care of her and just trying to figure out the most helpful therapies, the things that even weren't in mainstream kind of therapy land. You just kind of are thrown into this world of constant doctor's appointments, constantly getting new information, trying to communicate that with, if me and my husband weren't both at the appointments, trying to communicate that with the other one, trying to communicate to friends and family, the literally daily new information you were getting, and kind of scrambling for hope and hearing all kind of stories of, well, my kid was in therapy for a few years and now they don't have to have therapy anymore and they're doing so great. And, so it's just this mixture of like total, total fear and also this like weird hope that things are going to be okay. So around when Finley was 5, I was not okay. I was not doing well. I felt like a completely different person. I like in my natural kind of personality, I'm pretty happy-go-lucky, pretty positive, pretty energetic and up for, you know, going and doing and having people over. I am a person who needs my time by myself, but I definitely also need people in my life. And I was at a point where I was like, it had slowly been kind of slowly moving this way, but by year 5, I was like, I don't want to see anyone. I don't want to go anywhere. I don't want to do anything. And I was worried. My husband was worried. My family was worried. And I just happened to look up caregiver burnout, and turned out I had 9 out of 10 symptoms. I don't remember off the top of my head what all of those were, but I remember the scariest one was I was having thoughts about taking my life, and I was also very aware that that is completely not of God, and so I was being very vocal about it. I think we were told that it's very, very dangerous if someone is having those thoughts and not talking to anyone about it. So soon after that, my mom actually came up and stayed with us for about 2 weeks, and fully took on Finley. Her and Matt fully took on Finley. And then Matt sent me to my parents' house for, I think I was there for 2 weeks. And while I was there, Matt and I had received some really wonderful counseling from a counselor where my parents live. They don't live in the same state as us. And so I made an I made an appointment with this counselor, and just went into her office and was like, I'm pretty sure I have caregiver burnout. And she was like, very quiet and very patient. It's like, tell me more. And so I shared with her kind of how I was doing, and it felt really official. It felt saying, I had shared some of that or all of that with, my husband and close family and a couple of friends, but to say it to someone who has experience and authority in what I was dealing with felt very weighty, and it felt more real, even though I had already spoken those words out loud to other people. So she asked me some questions, which were really helpful, and I just continued to share. And after I was done sharing, she grabbed a piece of paper and said, I'm going to draw you a diagram that I think might be helpful. And she talked about in the Psalms where it talks about the valley of the shadow of death, and how we literally can go through the valley of the shadow of death. And so she drew this like gigantic U on a piece of paper and just began to go through really essentially the stages of grief. And as she went through them, I was resonating with so many, especially as like she was getting down to like the bottom of the U. And it was like things like that hope that I was telling you about in the beginning that I definitely remember feeling. This kind of, she called it like a tormented hope. And she talked about anxiety and depression and anger, and then like acceptance. But then after acceptance, there was like another round of depression. But she said it was very common for you to be in one stage of the grief valley and get sent back to another stage. So it can be very frustrating, and it can be really common to beat yourself up, which I totally related to. I absolutely was doing that. Like, why am I going back to this place? Like, I've already been through this. And so she just was like, Heather, you've got to know that this is really normal, and the way to get through this is to actually be kind to yourself and to receive the grace that God has for grief, that He's not rushing you. He's not hurrying you along. He's in this valley with you. He's walking through it with you. Even when you can't feel Him or hear Him, He is there. making a way, and he's not rushed in this process. The point is the process. I'm going to have to stop here because my daughter is needing to be picked up really soon, and I've got to drive over there. So I'll see you in a second. It is a whole different day, like weeks after I actually filmed that part in my car, and I'm finally sitting back down and filming the rest of this. I was really excited about this kind of upward side of the valley because that's where I really wanted to go. I wanted to get out of this place. I did not want to live in this place. I didn't feel like I actually had the energy to get out of it, but I wanted to get out of it. And so as Barbara's writing different words as we're going up the hill of the valley, and it's things like actually gaining new friendships, people who come alongside of you during this journey in the valley. And now you start to see your purpose in the pain that you have been walking through, and then it's like this kind of, which I feel like is maybe where I'm at now. And again, I can easily go back. Maybe something that would send me back that would take me like 2 or 3 months to get out of. Maybe it takes me like a couple of days now or a couple of weeks. And then you kind of go through this phase of personal revival and just helping others, being able to really see what God is doing, His faithfulness, really living in that place more. Not that you don't ever have your hard days, but those things are easier to access versus like being in the bottom of the pit. Just this last week, I had breakfast with one of my dearest friends, and she has been one who has really walked side by side with me through the last 7 years, and she herself has experienced tremendous grief. And she said to me, the way that I feel the best way to describe grief is it's like the ocean. Like some days you feel like you have your ankles in the water, you can see the sunlight, but there's just this like undertone of sadness. Other days you are on the sand, enjoying the sun, enjoying the sound of the waves, and other days you're like drowning in it. And I was like, yeah. And I think I said something like, yeah, and some days you're caught in the riptide and totally going under with like no hope of coming up. And she was like, exactly. And that's just a beautiful way to describe grief. I say that in that I think when you do go through something very, 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 very difficult, that, maybe it's short, maybe it's like a year, maybe it's 2 years. I have a friend who's been walking through something for over 14 years. A dear, dear friend of mine has been chronically ill since the time she was, I think, 12. So there are some long-term suffering, and I know that as we go through the valley, we partner with Jesus. He brings us out on the other side. We're able to see our purpose and what He's doing. And I know when you're in that deep, dark place, it feels like you're going to be there forever. And I know for me, when I go back to that dark place, it feels like I just am so frustrated. Like, why am I here again? And God's like, it's fine. Like, this doesn't surprise me. He's not like, what are you doing back in this place? He's like, I'm right here with you. I'm right beside you. I'm holding you in this place. You can trust me. You can lean into me. He does not put any of that frustration or shame or guilt that we can so easily put on ourselves. So I hope that encourages you today. This whole talk is the practical. It's actually very practical, and that this is the journey that our brains are going through to get through this suffering and whatever the difficulty is that we face. So I know I left that day. It wasn't like Barbara said anything that magically made me feel better. It was that I just understood that I'm going through the valley, and I don't know how long it's going to last, but I know that God is with me and that He's for me, And even on the days that I don't feel like it or I forget it, He's still there. And He's with you. He's with you right now, today, wherever you're at. Whether you're in that personal revival, or you're in the angry zone, or you're in the hopeful kind of despair, like that first initial, like if you're just got some news and you're kind of figuring it all out, wherever you are in the valley, He's with you. He's with us. So be blessed today. May you know God's peace and love and grace today. And I will see you here again very soon. Bye.